To discuss this, I'm joined by former soldier Jim Dewar and in our Westminster studio by Conservative MP James Arbuthnot, Chair of the Defence Select Committee. Welcome to you both. James, if I can come to you first, isn't this just an army on the cheap you're trying to put together?
It is certainly going to save some money, and saving some money is not a bad thing. But the problem is, if you have very little money, you have to defend the country with the money you have. It's actually going to have many, many benefits. We've, in this country, got a far lower proportion of our armed forces from the reserves than most other countries have. And one of the things this is going to do is to spread the footprint of the armed forces around the country so that more people have an understanding of what the armed forces do and will be able to support the armed forces.
What do you say to that, Jim?
Well, it's very true. I mean, I agree with Colonel Bob Stewart's comments this morning that it is an attempt to fill a gap that we've created by drawing down the regular army on the cheap, because the most expensive part of the army are the personnel. But if you compare our reserve forces to other forces, I saw comments this morning comparing us to the Americans and the Canadians. It is not comparing apples with apples. The reserve forces in America are a very different organisation altogether. They have very different terms of service. And when you look at the balance of forces, the American armed forces, the reserves in the National Guard at just over 560,000 is bigger than the standing army. So they can fill things in, but they still have problems in being able to produce those troops onto the ground.
And James, regular soldiers, their numbers are being decreased by 20,000. I mean, soldiers are going to be feeling pretty demoralised, aren't they?
Well, inevitably so. And that's what happens when you have to cut a defence budget along with almost all the other budgets. Yes, there will be that feeling of demoralisation. But there's also a feeling of hope within the territorials because of the new tasks that the territorials will be given. For example, the expansion of the cyber capability of the territorials. It's very important to get people who, in their civilian jobs, have got a lot of contact with cyber issues, and that's one of the things that the territorials will be expanding on.
And Jim, very quickly, how will this feel for full-time soldiers, having these reservists with them, training alongside them?
It's something that we've been doing for some time, and it works reasonably well, but the problem is that you can't just suddenly grow 15,000 troops over a short period of time. You need a balance of age, of experience, of rank, of capability. That is not going to happen overnight. So we're going to be left with quite a big hole between now, the drawdown of the regular army, and when this force might be capable.